One of the big battles with the Biden administration over immigration has been about Title 42. Now, Joe Biden has for more than a year continued this Trump era policy that expedited the deportation, the removal of migrants over supposed public health concerns. Now, there has been rumblings over the past couple of weeks about a change in that Biden is finally going to dispense with that policy, if he's allowed to, because now we find out that 5 Democratic and 6 Republican senators will introduce a new bill on Thursday that would prevent the Biden administration from lifting Title 42 without a detailed plan in place to stop an expected surge of migrants at the border. And I'm sure they'll be very reasonable about that expectation. It's not in their ideological or electoral interest to pretend that there's some sort of massive war at the border that will never end. Anyway, if you're coming into this debate a little bit late, here's what Title 42 is. It's a section of the Public Health Safety Act that allows the US government to temporarily block non-citizens from entering the US, quote, when doing so is required in the interest of public health. And over the past few years, this policy has allowed US immigration officials at the southern border to rapidly expel more than 618,000 migrants. Now, from the very beginning, CDC scientists opposed the policy, arguing that there was no legitimate public health rationale behind it. But then Vice President Mike Pence ordered them to follow through with it anyway. And now some Democrats are worried that if we get rid of this, then the Republicans, they're gonna criticize us. They're gonna say that the border is like in a terrible state, and then we might not win re-election. And so that's the reason they're giving for why we can't get rid of this policy. What do you think?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is just a cheap political trick, right? I think immigration is something that arouses the passions of a sizable amount of our fellow citizens here in the US. However, why this works politically is that like nobody actually cares the other way. There's no passion behind lifting this ban, right? Like there's nobody sitting at their house drinking coffee, reading the Wall Street Journal or reading their local paper who's gonna be like, heavens no, let the immigrants in even if they have COVID. Nobody's gonna do that. I think there are political issues that are hot buttons, right? Like if they tried to come out and say, hey, we're gonna take Granny Social Security and Medicare away with this bill, people would be up in arms, they'd be in the streets, they'd be calling people, and they would have no choice but to back down politically. This, they're able to score some cheap points with xenophobic, quite frankly, pretty racist people. And also they know that the people who don't oppose this and have no problem with immigrants coming in don't really care. They're not gonna see this as something that makes them wanna vote against their politician or move them to, start some type of civil unrest. And so that's why you could see freaking Sinema behind it. There's no political cost to it. We know she's the most weaseliest, most just gutless politician that we have on the Democratic side. So the fact that she's putting her name and face on it, that's how you know this is a BS PR political trick.
Exactly. The most Weasley, which I think makes her Ron Weasley, actually. But yeah, no, it's a total weasel move. To clarify one other way that it's a weasel move. Okay, so what is the argument that's being made? The right wingers are saying we can't get rid of this because if we do, migrants will come in and they will spread COVID, and that cannot be allowed.
Oh God.
Why? I thought COVID was a hoax. And even for those of you who don't think it's a hoax, you don't think we should do anything to stop it. You don't care. Like COVID's just the flu. So what's the difference? Plus, you've got ivermectin. So who cares if they bring in COVID? Think about it. Anyway, no, I'm on the side of the CDC scientists who say they're not spreading it. As Woz points out, they're tested anyway. Honestly, if you're a migrant, I would hesitate to enter the US because you're probably gonna get COVID once you get here, honestly. We don't need you to bring it. We got our own supply and it's renewable.
Also, we could just vaccinate them when they get here.
Exactly.
We got extras. It's really that simple. We can just be like, look, guys, I know you coming from El Salvador, wherever you coming from. Hey, here's the jab. All right, keep it pushing. It's really that easy.
Exactly.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.